Good day, everyone. It's awesome to have you. Today will be a little bit different because we will be talking about self-compassion. So instead of our usual way of diving into directly in our meditation, what we will be doing for today is we will have sort of a talk or an information learning session about self-compassion before we dive into self-compassion meditation. What's really interesting is that there's a reach of information that you can get from self-compassion. And well, let's hope that 30 minutes will be enough for us to cover self-compassion. If not, we can park self-compassion meditation to our usual schedule of Monday mindfulness. And let's see, let's just go with the flow. So for our contents, what we will be talking about is first one, the concepts of compassion. So before we arrive with compassion, what are the different levels of compassion? Next one is you will be taking a self-compassion scale. Let's see if you already possess self-compassion with yourself. Next one, we will be talking about different self-compassion exercises that you can do at your own pace and that you can try. Let's see your score in your self-compassion. And if that's low or moderate, then I really suggest you go on and do these different self-compassion exercises. And lastly, we have a very beautiful self-compassion meditation. So let's start. What is self-compassion? Before we start, actually, would love to invite you to go ahead, find your most comfortable space, and I suggest that you close all different tabs. I know that you may be, doing other things aside from being right here, right now. But in order for you to enjoy the next 30 minutes or so, would really love to invite you to practice mindfulness, mindful learning, because that's what you will have today, learning. So first one is, what is self-compassion? The first one is, before we arrive in self-compassion, the first one is empathy. Okay? So when we say empathy, if you're familiar, are you familiar with what empathy is or what empathy means? You can, just type down in the comment section if you're tuning in via Facebook or in our chat. You could type in some words that's popping in your mind what empathy is. So usually empathy is feeling for the other person. Okay, so when we say we feel for the other person, you empathize with the other person. It's like having the ability to wear the other person's shoes. Before empathy is sympathy, meaning you understand where the other person is coming from, right? So there's sympathy, there's empathy, and the highest form is compassion. So for empathy is you understand the person. I'm sorry, sympathy is you understand the person. Empathy is you feel what the other person is going through. For compassion is it's an act. You act because you understand and you feel what the other person is going through. Meaning you don't only say, oh, I empathize or I sympathize. When you have compassion for another person, you go out of your way and you do act. Okay? So that's compassion. Now, let's add the word self in compassion. Now, if you sympathize with yourself, you understand yourself. If you empathize with yourself, self-empathy, you feel what you have to feel, right? Going beyond that is compassion, meaning if you recognize that you need help, you seek help. When you recognize that you're experiencing emotions, feelings that are difficult to process, you help yourself, you act. So that's the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion. And what's really beautiful with this session for today is you join in and you are listening and you are learning. And this is a way of showing yourself compassion because this is an act of saying yes to yourself. Now let's try the self-compassion questionnaire. Okay, this is really short. The concepts here are adopted from Dr. Christine Neff. So she's really an expert. She specializes in self-compassion. So get your paper and your pen ready, or your notepads, or whatever you use for taking down notes. So this is just a 12-item self-compassion scale short form. So there's another scale, but it's around 24 items. What we're doing is the short form. So just answer how I typically act towards myself in difficult times. Read each statement carefully before answering. Indicate how often you behave in the stated manner using the following scale. So 1, when I fail at something important to me, I become consumed by feelings of inadequacy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, almost never. To 5, almost always. Number 2, I try to be understanding and patient towards those aspects of my personality I don't like. Number 3, when something painful happens, I try to take a balanced view of the situation. 4, when I'm feeling down, I tend to feel like most other people are probably happier than I am. 5, I try to see my feelings as part of the human condition. 6, when I'm going through a very hard time, I give myself the caring and tenderness I need. 7, when something upsets me, I try to keep my emotions in balance. 8, when I fail at something that's important to me, I tend to feel alone in my failure. 9, when I'm feeling down, I tend to obsess and fixate on everything that's wrong. 10, when I feel inadequate in some way, I try to remind myself that feelings of inadequacy are shared by most people. 11, I'm disapproving and judgmental about my own flaws and inadequacies. 12, I'm intolerant and impatient towards those aspects of my personality I don't like. If you miss an item, since this is live stream on Facebook, definitely you can go ahead, go back, or you can pause this video. For those who are tuning with us via Zoom, you can screenshot. So you can, just go back to this scale later on. Now let's score. Here's the scoring key. For self-kindness, that's items 2 and 6. For self-judgment items, that's 11, 12. So these are reverse scored. So to reverse score items, if you score 1, then you will score that as 5, and so on. Common humanity items are items 5 and 10. Isolation items, reverse scoring, items 4 and 8. Mindfulness items, 3 and 7. Over-identification items, reverse score, 1 to 9. You can also add everything to all items to get your self-compassion score. Now, to know, you can, again, the scoring is not really that simple as adding and getting the mean. So once again, you can go back to this scale, or I can send it to you later on after our learning session. Now for the norm, If you score 1.0 to 2.49, that means low. If your scores are between 2.5 to 3.5, that's moderate. What does it mean? It means that this learning session is really very important for you in order for you to boost, in order for you to do and be compassionate with yourself. Again, let's go back to compassion. When we say compassion, it's really taking an action to love yourself. So here are the different exercises. So for the self-compassion exercises, I will just be running through it, and we will do one exercise. Okay? So for the first one is, how would you treat a friend? Okay, so the first compassion exercise is, how would you treat a friend? So this exercise is simply, imagine you're going through something, right? And sometimes when we go through something, we have self-defeating thoughts, or we have negative self-talk. Now, if you witness or you notice yourself being self-critical, being negative towards yourself, you can go ahead and ask yourself, is that how you would treat a friend when your friend is going through something, right? So basically, the premise of this first exercise is, how you would treat a friend is the same as how you should be treating yourself. Sometimes we treat others better than how we treat ourselves, right? Sometimes we give these really beautiful words of wisdom to others, but really self-defeating dialogues to ourselves. Okay, so that's how would you treat a friend exercise. Next one is self-compassion break. So when we say self-compassion break, it's noticing you've practiced mindfulness. So it's really noticing you have these negative thoughts about yourself. You have negative dialogue, and really just noticing, capturing, anchoring it on your senses. And you can go ahead and practice that I am aware that I am being unkind. Okay? I am aware that I am feeling this. And you can name your emotion, whatever it is that you're feeling. I am aware that I am feeling inadequate at the moment. Okay? For self-compassion break, it's because we tend to go away or ignore our feelings. So when we're feeling a little bit inadequate, unworthy, we try to go away from that. We try to ignore by doing other things. Other people would resort to addiction. Other people would resort to overworking, right? Or whatever habits or activities, just to ignore these feelings. So for self-compassion break, recognize the emotion, the feeling, capture it, and then just say, I am aware. Okay, so that's giving yourself a break of recognizing this emotion. That's showing love to yourself. Next one is self-compassion writing, right? So for self-compassion writing, again, this is another mindfulness exercise where you are aware of the negative dialogue that you tell yourself and you write it down. Okay? Now let's do that exercise. I want you to type down in our comment section, in our chat box, 2 things. So I want you to be aware of your negative self-talk. And I want you to shift that, switch that to a self-compassion word, right? So for example, you're feeling inadequate. Now I want you to switch that and recognize what it is that you love most about yourself. And I want you to identify two. What are two things that you are very proud of yourself? What are two things that you love most about yourself? So go ahead, share in our chat box. What are those two words, two things that you love about yourself, that you are proud? Okay. Hardworking and funny. Mm. Care more about others than myself. Wow, I hope. And kind. Kind and generous. Wow, lovely. Right? Understanding of others. One more. Creative and caring. So beautiful. Free and tough. And switching or even just identifying the things that we love about ourselves would really multiply. So that's just two. How do you feel after recognizing those beautiful things about yourself? How do you feel after you recognize these things? How do you feel now? Patience. Mm, right? And that's just two words. Now for self-compassion writing, it's suggested that you write at least five, five every day for the next 21 days. And the challenge is for you not to repeat what you have written the other day. Okay? So if this is an exercise that you would like to try, so that's, you can go ahead, write down in your journals, if you're doing journals, five things you love about yourself every day for the next 21 days and without repeating them. Next one is inner child. So inner child, this is one of my favorite exercises that I do with my clients. It's under meditative state. There are actually a lot of inner child exercises. Other exercises will actually write to the child you, right? But for the process that I do for inner child under meditative state, we will go back to your childhood, to the very first time when you felt you are not compassionate, you are not feeling self-compassion. Okay, so when was the very first time when you felt you're critical to yourself or someone was critical at you? When someone was not giving you the love that you needed, when you felt like you were not understood? Because 90%, 90 to 95% of people who are experiencing, let's say, depression, anxiety, all of these things are actually rooted to their childhood. So something happened in their childhood and they have to resolve it. It's just that we can no longer resolve it because we're adults, right? So what we do is we go back to our inner child when we were kids and we converse, we have a dialogue with that child and make the child feel safe, love, or give whatever it needed during that time. We will become the adult that child you needed during that time. Okay, so that's the inner child exercise. If you would like to do it on your own, you can write a letter to the child you. Just go ahead, you can meditate. When was the very first time you felt this? You felt you're not compassionate towards yourself, or someone, an adult, a parent, a guardian was not compassionate to you. And then you can write a letter to your inner child. Okay. Though I suggest also doing it with a professional, with a counselor, with a therapist. So those are the two ways you can do inner child exercise. Next one The fifth one is, what do you really want? Okay. So when we are being critical, I don't totally agree with what I'm about to say, but the reason why we are being overly critical is because it's our survival instinct at work. Okay, I'll repeat that. When we are overly critical with ourselves, it's our survival instinct at work. Meaning, our survival instinct wants us to succeed, wants us to do well. So if your words are like, oh, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, it's actually your survival self trying to motivate you. Okay? Now, if you notice that survival voice in you, just try to notice, because if you notice, if you notice, all the exercises says is all about what? Noticing, right? It's all about mindfulness. So notice the voice. Now, if you notice the survival voice, you now have to ask what it is that you really want. Because most of the time, the survival voice doesn't want really to put you down. The survival voice wants you to be safe. Let's say for the past 30, 40, 50 years, you've been doing the same thing. You're not growing, you're not into self-development. And it has kept you safe and sound for these 10 years. And now you're trying to do this self-development, this self-improvement, and you will hear that survival voice, you're no good, that will not work. Okay, why? Because you have lived for 10 years being safe by not doing anything. And doing something different, your survival instinct is telling you, oh, this is not a safe ground. Okay, so the survival self is keeping you safe, to just stay as you are, not develop, not be self-compassionate. Okay. And again, notice if you hear the voice, what it is that you really want. Perhaps your survival self wants you to be safe, wants you to be happy, wants you to succeed. Right? And there's power in noticing, there's power in awareness. And lastly, we have guided meditation. Okay. So for guided meditation, this is a self-compassion exercise. This is really beautiful because this is what we usually do every Monday. So yeah, this is an exercise where you can do self-compassion. Now I would like to ask you. So we tried self-compassion writing, right? Okay. We also tried self-compassion break. So among these exercises, we will try guided meditation. Okay, we will try self-compassion meditation. I know it's about 7 minutes before we end our session. So we will try to make it a little bit faster. Okay, so go ahead, find your most comfortable space. Oh, yes. Okay, find your most comfortable space, and would love to receive a thumbs up if you're ready to do the self-compassion meditation. Awesome. Okay. You know the drill. Place your feet on the ground. If you're lying, it's also okay. Place your hands on your lap and close your eyes. Command your body to relax, relax, relax. Now try to do cleansing breath. 5 counts in, 5 counts hold, and 5 counts release. Let's do it all together. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Do 2 more rounds. Inhale. Hold. Release. Last round. Inhale. Hold. Release. Now notice different thoughts popping from your head. If you feel distracted, just notice. Anchor it on your breath and release. Now you've been here. Go inside your heart space, in your safe space, that beautiful safe space of yours. And visualize that you are with your most compassionate friend. This most compassionate friend has all the wisdom, has all the patience and understanding of you. Your compassionate friend has unwavering, unconditional love towards you. This compassionate friend could be your higher self, could be your grandma or grandpa, or it could be a spiritual friend. Whoever your compassionate friend is, you can go ahead and talk to your friend. If you're going through something right now, you're feeling not so compassionate about yourself, if you have self-defeating thoughts, go ahead and share it to your friend. And listen to what your friend is telling you. Now, if you have problems, if you're going through something right now and you need an answer, you need a question, you need guidance, you need a friend, go ahead. And share to your compassionate friend. You can even listen to the guidance, the compassionate guidance. Now you can even ask, what's the message? What's a message that you can keep and that you can use in your daily life? And your compassionate friend will give you an object that symbolizes this message, whatever object this is. It reminds you of something. It reminds you of self-compassion. Now know that you can come back to this loving, compassionate friend of yours in this space. Because your compassionate friend is inside you. Your compassionate friend is you. The one who is wise, the one who has unwavering, unconditional love is you. If you want, you can go ahead and hug your friend. If not, it's also okay. Now feel the warmth in your heart. traveling all over different parts of your body. You feel lighter. You feel self-compassion. That self-compassion, that's the warmth in your heart traveling all throughout other spaces, other parts of your body until you're surrounded with self-compassion. Once again, know that you can come back to this space whenever you want to, whenever you need to. Witness a golden rain from the heavens going down from your head, down to your body, grounding you, bringing you back to the present. Now, come back, gently blink, open your eyes. Wow, welcome back. How is it? How's our self-compassion meditation? How's our self-compassion learning session? I would love to leave you with this. I know I've been sharing this even at the very first slide. Let's all remember that compassion is love plus action. So let's give that to ourselves. Love plus action. Thank you so much, everyone. And let's all have a very compassionate, meaningful week ahead. I send you love.